Well, here it is, the penultimate games of a penultimate champion with the penultimate episode of the Hooper's Log here on the Lead Sports Media Network podcasting area everywhere, whether it's on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Pod, everywhere you can envision. The penultimate games for a championship have been played as one way or another, whether it's game 6, game 7 coming up here, whether it's Thursday or Juneteenth slash Father's Day, whatever day, a champion will be crowned here over the next week, and we will be there to recap it for you next week in our final episode of the Hooper's Log. But for today, we're here to recap the penultimate of all those games to before crowning a champion tonight here on episode 39, season 8 of the Hooper's Log on June 14th, 2022, Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. And I got a lot to say about these last couple of games. Obviously, I think game 3, when we look back on it, it was Boston's way of saying, hey, guess what? Like I said in the last episode, Boston came out and they just absolutely handed the Warriors a drubbing. Let's start off with game 3, actually, and talk about what we saw overall from Boston as they headed back to their home state in Massachusetts. They won 116-100. And one of the big things and reasons as to why Boston came out and dominated in that game in particular was, frankly, just the swarming defense, the offensive intensity, everything that they did. They had 3 guys score over 20, and overall, from a defensive prowess perspective, they came out and laid the wood on the Warriors, as the Warriors had 16 turnovers. They only had overall 30 rebounds, and they fouled 23 times. This was a game that the Warriors had no interest in partaking in. It was not as close as the final score made it out to be. The Warriors got to Boston. They weren't ready. They got destroyed. And frankly, with the way they came out and played overall as a unit, it was something to where you sat there and said, yeah, this is why Golden State has been talked about for years and why they can't compete in an environment like this. The Boston Celtics went up 2-1. The Warriors, outside of Steph Curry, and even Curry, if you can believe it or not, in this, in this situation, he had offered 31 points on 54% shooting. He was 6 of 11 from the three-point line. He did everything that Curry could do. But outside of Klay Thompson, everybody else's water went off. Andrew Wiggins, 18 points, 7 rebounds. He was nothing to be looked at as impressive. But overall, it was just the Celtics doing and what they wanted to do in that game. And overall, they came out, did what they wanted to do, dominated, and it was just not close from the tip. When you look at the overall layout of that game in Game 3, from the start, Boston was up big. It was from the absolute tip of this ball game, outside of a little blip there in the third quarter, the Golden State Warriors were absolutely manhandled. Outside of, what was it, the point where Golden State was up 83-82 with about 3 minutes left in the third, outside of that, it was an absolute drubbing by the Warriors. They got shell-shocked and dominated, and there was nothing that they were going to do to be able to handle Boston. And I think what happens to younger teams, and people, I say younger in regards to the Warriors because, yeah, we all know the Boston Celtics are young, but the Warriors are a younger team outside of their main 3, and I think when you go into a scenario and in a situation like when you play Boston, you get taken aback as to really how difficult this league is. I think at times you feel like that the league is a lot easier than it really can be, especially when you've got, frankly, one of the greatest trios of all time in Draymond, Klay, and Steph, where they all now have the most wins as a trio. I personally don't think that it counts because they had Kevin Durant for 10 of those, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think that overall it should count because they weren't the main trio. Kevin Durant was a huge portion of why they won two of their three championships to this point. And I think when we look at the overall history of what they've done, Game 3 was a very, very, very keen example as to why people give excuses as to why they're fed up with the Warriors, is because they can't play in tough environments. Well, I'll tell you this much. I said in the last episode, respect will be earned one way or another. And that's still the case after these last three games. Game 3, Game 4, and Game 5 going into Game 6, and potentially Game 7, respect will be earned. Golden State is going to have to win the championship in one of two ways. Whether it's in Boston, on their floor, Game 6, or they're going to come back home in a Game 7 and a winner-take-all. One way or another, Golden State is going to have to earn the way they win this title. But what they did on Friday, winning 107-97, yes, it was an outstanding ball game. It was a close affair all the way through until the fourth quarter when, frankly, it was the Steph Curry show. He went off in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was lighting it up from every single which way he wanted to on the floor. He was scoring. He was taking advantage of opportunities and mismatches. He was hitting his shots. He was getting hot. There were a lot of circumstances and scenarios where when you look at the Golden State Warriors and how they played in Boston in the last 4 minutes of that game, Golden State and what they wanted to do and what Steph Curry did to neutralize what they wanted to do is exactly what you want to see in regards to everything happening and everything occurring in every single which way you could ever envision. And seeing that and understanding that is something that makes champions more and more impressive as time moves forward. And as time was moving forward for the Golden State Warriors down the stretch of that ball game, there was more and more opportunities for Steph Curry to be seen and understood and recognized overall for what he could do overall as, frankly, one of the greatest players of his era and of his generation. And one of the things that we noticed and that we saw in that game, outside of the fact that we saw Boston take advantage of mismatches and opportunities in Game 4, was that Steph Curry obviously is the ultimate neutralizer, right? When he's hot, when he's going, it's tough to change things and tough to change overall circumstances and overall situations, right? And so that was the problem that they had. But the key factor, if you really want to break down who the key factor was in Game 4, and they've been talking about it the last week, is Andrew Wiggins. He, after Game 3, when frankly he didn't disappear, but he wasn't impressive, came out and had those 16 rebounds that people have been talking about nonstop, and his impact on the overall outcome of the game in Game 4 was absolutely crucial and critical as to why Steph Curry got to where he got to in the game. That's not saying that Andrew Wiggins is the reason why the Warriors won in Game 4, where no one's crazy, no one's stupid. We all know the output of what Steph Curry did in Game 4 was historical, was phenomenal, and incredible. But Andrew Wiggins' impact on that game, rebounding the basketball, was a big, big, big reason and rationale and understanding as to why Golden State helped neutralize and defeat Boston late. Boston made a great run late in that ball game. They had a shot to win that game late with Steph Curry going off. And honestly, if it wasn't for Andrew Wiggins and his ability to create second chance opportunities or opportunities to restart possessions, that's how you change. That's how you absolutely change a narrative of a series, and historically how you change everything regarding how things played out. That's why right now, and I'm not just saying this because we just watched Game 5. I know what Steph Curry did in Game 4 was historical, and his importance to this team is astronomical, and we all know that as of right now, if they won the finals, and he came out and played a great Game 6 or Game 7, doesn't matter, whichever the game is, to win the title, he would probably win the finals MVP. But if he does exactly what he did in Game 5, which we'll talk about here in a minute, then we have to acknowledge the fact that he should not win the Finals MVP. Just because you have one incredible game does not mean you should be Finals MVP. Andrew Wiggins has had 2 back-to-back impactful games to the degree in which if he's not on the floor, I can almost guarantee you that they're not the reason why they are where they are. 17 points, 16 rebounds in game 4. I know. Curry went off for 43 points. He had 10 rebounds himself, 4 assists, and obviously 14 of 26 from the floor, 53% from the field, 50% from 3 at 7 of 14, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. Steph Curry's impact on the floor scoring was phenomenal, historical, all the adjectives you want to use. But Andrew Wiggins going 16 rebounds, 17 points is a huge key contributor. Out of the 55 rebounds they attributed, Andrew Wiggins had 16 of those. If Andrew Wiggins is not on the floor, they only get 39 rebounds, and they get out-rebounded by 3 in that scenario. Also, subtract the 17 points from Andrew Wiggins based throughout the game, and clearly they're losing, right? I'm not sitting here and telling you Steph Curry's output isn't important, because it was. And it was the determining, in my opinion, factor of why they won Game 4. Without Steph Curry, there's no way they win that ballgame. But don't get it twisted. If Andrew Wiggins' impact isn't found, where do the Warriors find other key contributors? I know, Klay went off for 18, and Klay has been an incredible story. But Draymond Green was nowhere to be found in Game 4. Yeah, he had 9 rebounds and 8 assists and 4 steals, and he was an impactful player overall throughout the game. We're not sitting here and saying that outscoring points or rebounds or statistical points mean anything, right? Statistical things mean anything. We're not trying to sit here and denounce that and take it away. But we have to be honest with the overall outcome and situation. We have to be honest. Steph Curry and what he did was a huge impact in game 4. But if it wasn't for Andrew Wiggins, if it wasn't for Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole off the bench, that is a dead team in the water. Because if you look at what happened in Game 5, and let's just go into Game 5. When you look at Game 5 overall, and how it played out, and how it turned into another really down-the-wire, phenomenal defense by both teams, but realistically, Golden State put the clamps on. They came out hot early, and in the second half, Boston came out hot. And then in the fourth quarter, it wasn't Steph Curry that did anything. This was Andrew Wiggins putting his foot on the gas. It was Klay Thompson hitting in-rhythm shots. It was the Golden State Warriors finding their offense. This entire team came together and output a game that you would have never thought. They mentioned it in the broadcast a million times. You would have never thought this team in this game would have been where it was with a minute to go with Steph Curry playing the way he played. He played like absolute dog garbage. And for a guy to have 16 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, shoot 31% from the floor, 0% from 3 on 0 of 9, and for them to win by 10, which the game was pretty much in hand when he barely did anything in the fourth quarter from a scoring output perspective. From a team within perspective, everybody played great. Andrew Wiggins was the guy in Game 5. There is no debate. He was the key factor. Without Andrew Wiggins, they don't win this game. That's scary to say because after watching Andrew Wiggins his entire career and being in the media his entire career, that is an incredible statement to say. Klay Thompson had 21. Again, his in-rhythm shots were phenomenal. 50% from the floor, 45% from 3. He was outstanding. What an incredible story Klay Thompson is. I mean, just after being out with knee injuries for the last 2.5 years and coming back in January and now coming back to the finals where it all happened to him 3 years ago, and to be playing the way he's playing at really an elite clip. It's one of the greatest comeback stories we'll probably never hear about because Klay is such a humble to himself guy. And for him to be where he's at and what he's doing is just a testament to his character and his ethic, his work ethic, and his mentality. It's astronomically phenomenal. I can't bring up more adjectives to describe it because it's so awe-inspiring. If you've ever been down in your life, if you've ever done anything in your life that has caused you havoc and change and disturbance, Klay Thompson is a beam of light for you to look at because, my God, this guy to be where he was for the last 2.5, the last 3 years of his life, to be where he is in all the circumstances, in every situation, in every scenario, to be where he is, you just got to tip your cap. I mean, just professionalism at its best. It's a testament. It's a big testament to him, and for him to be a key factor again tonight. That's one of the best things about the NBA Finals is that I know Jason Tatum the last couple games has not played well. Marcus Smart, they overall as a unit have played okay defensively. In fact, they've actually been really good. They've been really good defensively. Golden State, frankly, has just had the better outputs. Whether it's Steph Curry going off in Game 4 or it's a complete team effort with Andrew Wiggins being the key guy in Game 5. Golden State's just had the upper hand by an edge. Just by an edge. Boston has played fantastic basketball. They had a cap on the lid in the fourth quarter. Golden State played phenomenal defense. Their mentality both ends of the court. Same with Boston, though. Their defense both ends of the court. Just absolutely staggering, incredible basketball. I can't give you enough adjectives to describe what we've been watching in the finals. Outside of maybe a couple of quarters here and there, you've been like, wow, this has been the way basketball should be played. And it's refreshing, it's fun, it's exciting to see. But this Game 5 is another testament to the overall culture of what Golden State has created. I mean, if you would have told me a year, 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, knowing that KD was leaving, if you would have told me that Golden State would be back in this situation with basically a brand new team outside of their core three, I would have said you're crazy. I would have said there's no way. What's Clay going to look like? Is Steph Curry going to be able to hold up? Is Draymond Green going to stay healthy? Is Draymond Green going to be the same player in 3 years? Or who's going to be? Is Kevon Looney going to be healthy? Because remember, I think he had a separated shoulder in the finals against Toronto in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, or he had a big time shoulder injury of some kind, a leg injury. He had something going on, and he still played through it. All their other guys have swapped out and changed, and they've drastically moved things around. And Steph Curry didn't play very often, and when he did, he was incredible, but he was only, incredible in spurts. And then you had Klay Thompson, who'd been out forever, and Draymond was out for two months this year. I mean, they have gone through a whirlwind of everything on top of all the other stuff going on in the world, and they have found a way to get back here with a guy and Andrew Wiggins putting up big-time performance, big-time key, not big-time, number-wise, but big-time key important performances the last 2 games to bring them within one game of a championship. Whether they close it out or not, whether they win it all or not, Golden State is putting on something where, again, they still need to close it out. We've seen this before, 2016, they've got to win the championship. They've got to finish it out. But Golden State is putting on something that might last another 2 to 3 years from what they're doing now. And I'm not trying to be prisoner of the moment. We know Memphis is phenomenal. We know teams like Denver, when they're healthy, they can be really scary. Phoenix can easily come back and contend again. The Jazz are always a team that you got to look out for. Dallas, with what they did this past year, they can come out of nowhere and be scary again. And obviously in the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee's still got the best player in the league. Brooklyn's going to be fully healthy. Miami is still always a tough competitor. And obviously Boston's only going to get better. And we all know Philadelphia is going to improve with their offseason. So I'm not sitting here trying to tell you Golden State's going to just do this again next year. That is not what I am trying to say. But the impressiveness of what they're doing against a franchise and an organization that has just gone through this historically so often, to be here and do this and get to their point. I said it. Respect will be earned in the last episode. We're at the penultimate of games now of who could be on the precipice of history. And Golden State, from a historical perspective, could win their 4th chip in the last 8 years. And if you really think about it, this core of guys and this ultimately new young sector of players that they have around their core, they could make this last for another 2 to 3 years with Clay, Steph, and Draymond playing, probably not at the same clip, but at a clip where they can be as efficient as they need to be, and come playoff time, they can be terrifying. And knowing that and understanding that, if they can close this out against Boston, we can sit there and we can talk about the Golden State Warriors from a historical perspective and throw them in with anybody. We can already do that, but knowing that they can do this, come back and play this way without a Kevin Durant, and they can ultimately do it without a megalodon superstar, which I'm not sitting here telling you Steph is not. Steph is an all-time superstar, but all-time superstars don't put up 16 points and go 0 for whatever in the finals from 3. I know nobody's just like Steph. That's Steph's thing, right? Well, at the same time, you don't just put up a 16 burger and do nothing in the fourth and be seen as a superstar. If Andrew Wiggins doesn't show up tonight, the Warriors probably get beat by, I'll be 100% honest, probably by 15 at home and go down 3-2. If Andrew Wiggins doesn't help out and Clay doesn't help out in game 4, Steph probably goes off for 50 and they lose by 20. I'm just being honest with you. I'm not trying to sit here and rip Golden State, but that's what the culture does. It's the same thing with Milwaukee last year. It's the same thing with other teams and other organizations that have guys and players and teams and coaches and everything. Certain guys will step up randomly. Shoot, even Jordan Poole and Gary Payton Jr. last night on Game 5. They stepped up and put up double-digit points. That's the kind of stuff that when you look at the key franchises of all time and historically and etc., that's the kind of stuff. When you look at it, you sit there and you say, this is why they are where they are. They have developed a culture. It is not because of Steph. It is not because of Steve Kerr or because of this. It's because they've had this culture for over a decade. And they have cemented what they do. They have created these opportunities for guys to come in, plug and play, and do what they do as their specialty and perform without the pressure of knowing that they need to be the guys to go out there and do everything, or that when they're not called upon, they don't feel like, oh, wow, I didn't contribute. No, they're playing an entire role. That's how you win championships in the sport of basketball. When everybody's involved, when everybody's playing a role, when you've got your key guys and you've got your key contributors. That's how it's been historically for 50 plus years, 60 plus years. Since the dawn of, basically since the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar era, that's what this league's been about. You have a superstar, you got key contributors, you got an entire team, and that's how you get it done. The Golden State Warriors are one game away from an NBA championship. And like I said on the last show, respect will be earned. If they win an NBA championship in Boston, and they come out, and they come guns a-blazing, and they dominate beyond all expectations, and they take it on Thursday night, I will sit here in my final episode of the Hoopers Log and tell you everything that I was wrong about the Golden State Warriors from the tip-top beginning of when they won their first title in 2015, when I had just started my show in December of that season, the 2014-2015 season. But I will also go the other way. If they find a way to pull out and lose this finals after being up 3-2, and especially with the way Steph Curry played in Game 5, I will sit here and I will tell you everything that is wrong with the NBA and why the Golden State Warriors are the perfect example of why everything is wrong with the NBA. It's going to go one way or the other here. Either Boston wins an NBA championship in 7, or the Golden State Warriors win it in 6 or 7. And they will have earned all of my respect because of the style in which they play the game of basketball. Not by in which they have developed their culture, not by the way they've played defense, not by the way they've played in regards to overall team offense, but how they've created the aura and the projection of all you got to do is shoot threes and win a title. That's the portion of the league that we can all agree that has slowly seeped into every single GM and front office person and league executive and all that in their minds of this is how you win a title. Because that's not how you win a title. Did you watch Steph Curry in Game 5? He didn't make a thing from 3. In fact, he looked pedestrian. Steph Curry looked like
a little child out there running around trying to shoot a basketball in Game 5. He looked horrible. He looked like trash. And that's not being light. If you're a bona fide stud superstar, and if a LeBron James played the way Steph Curry played in Game 5, you got any idea how much he would get trashed even if they won by 10? He would get absolutely demolished. That's why I'm bashing Steph Curry. But that's the beauty of basketball. You don't have to shoot it from the outside to win. All you have to do is play rough-nosed, intensified defense. Get in your dude's face. Adjust, transition, change up. All these different things you got to do in basketball to change up your style and your looks and all these other things. On top of playing incredibly great, in-depth offense. And on top of that, adjusting within what they're showing you defensively to adjust to win. Draymond Green is a Hall of Famer. Draymond Green will go to the Hall of Fame. I don't care what you have to say because it's 100% accurate. Draymond Green will be in the Hall of Fame. Watching games like tonight is why he's a Hall of Famer. And if you don't agree, I think you're insane. If Dennis Rodman can go to the Hall of Fame, Draymond Green will be in the Hall of Fame. It is that simple. And let me tell you, Draymond Green is 100% more skilled than Dennis Rodman. 100%. If not 1,000% more skilled than Dennis Rodman. He will be in the Hall of Fame. He is one of the greatest glue players this league has ever seen. He is one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen in this league. He is one of the most adaptable players. And wherever you got to plug him, wherever you got to put him, wherever he needs to be, he seems to be there. The only weakness in Draymond Green's game is shooting the damn ball from 15 feet out. Everything else, he is an absolute magician. He is a brilliant, absolute mind, freak of nature, everything he does, and it is so fundamentally sound. I was thinking about this while I was watching Game 5, and I was watching Draymond Green play, and obviously Steph and a lot of the stars, even Tatum and all these guys. And one of the things I thought about when I was watching Draymond Green constantly just haul ass up and down the court, throwing dimes, bounce passes, chest passes, over the head passes, down under, skip passes, everything you want to call into every kind of pass. All I thought about was fundamentals. I was sitting there and I was like, Draymond Green, for him to be this good at this size, this smart, this kind of ability to constantly look ahead and see where he needs to do, what he needs to be, what he needs to go after, is so amazingly simple from a constant, consistent perspective. From the standpoint of all he's doing is repeating the basic fundamentals of the sport of basketball. And he's doing it to a degree where it is absolute perfection. And it makes you think, all you got to do is do everything simple, perfectly, all the time. And it's on such a grand stage that when you watch the sport, you sit there and you think, wow, all he's doing is doing all of the simple stuff in the biggest stage of the game. And he's doing it at a time and at a level, and he's making the perfect passes, the perfectly timed plays. He's making everything he's doing is almost perfect. And it's all simple. None of it is complex. None of it is difficult, but he's perfect at it. At every single situation, when he's focused and concentrated on what he's got, it's damn near perfect. But it's all so simple. And that is the craziest and best part about the sport of basketball. When everything is working to a T, it looks so simple. That's the best part about watching championship basketball and players like Draymond Green, Steph Curry, all these guys who have played this sport for their entire life. They get to the highest stage and they make everything look incredibly simple. And that is the biggest compliment you can give to any professional athlete. When you see them, you say, wow, you make that look easy. Oh, trust me. They do so much to make it look so easy. And for Draymond to do it at the size he is, and in the speed in which he's playing at, and everything he's doing, it is absolutely mesmerizing. That's why he's going to the Hall of Fame. Guys like Klay Thompson, they make their shot look so easy and effortless. Do you have any idea for a guy to be gone from the game at this level, at this speed, for almost 30 plus months, and then come back and within 5 months get to the NBA Finals and be hitting shots like that as if he never left 5 months after being off the sport for 30? That is insane. That is absolutely insane. And he makes it look easy. This is why, if these guys win the chip over Boston, they all have their fourth ring. And they will have done it in a way in which they came back from where they were as a trio, as their legacies, etc. I'm going to sit there and be like, you know what? There's nothing more for me to say. What more is there to talk about in regards to the legacies of the Golden State Warriors? They're not the greatest trio of all time because they still got, I think, win one more title without KD to prove it. But in regards to the consistency and the tenacity and the level in which they play within the current NBA, I wouldn't put them up against any trio ever. But for their era, boy, they break a lot of stereotypes, don't they? They don't just sit there and jack up threes. They don't just sit there and base their game off the outside game. They do everything else that you're supposed to do to be a championship-oriented team. You get up in your teammates' grill. You're playing zone defense at times when you know you probably really shouldn't. You find ways to adjust offensively and the angles of what you need to do to adapt for what the defense is showing you. You're playing an inside game when they're expecting you to play an outside game. You're playing post-up plays when normally that's not your bread and butter. You're getting guys that normally don't get involved more involved because you know that that's going to change up the pace and the style in which guys look at you. You're going to change your angles for where you go and where you need to be. You're going to change your approach to guys defensively, and you're going to change your looks. All of these intuitive, in-depth things at the sport of basketball, in the NBA level, I don't know about any other leagues, but in the NBA level, are all on display in the finals. And that's the crap that bugs me. They don't do this any other time of the year. We watched all these conference finals games in May, and how disappointed and how droll and how boring were we all watching the conference finals with every single game being a 20, 30-point blowout. And we're sitting there and there's no detail, there's no depth, there's no intensity, there's no nothing. It's just teams coming out smoking each other, going up 20 to 10, going up 20 to 3 in the first 8 minutes of a ball game, and you're like, well, I'm just going to go watch something else. And now we got the finals, and each game has had a level of intensity and a level of depth and a level of, fragility in regards to how everybody is playing on such pins and needles in regards to their level of, their level of detail, their level of intensity, all these things. And all of a sudden, it all comes together, and the sport of basketball just plays out the way it's supposed to. But for some reason, we can't do that any other time of the year. We can only do it in June. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't it be like this all the time? Don't sit here and tell me that when you watched the NBA Finals, you watched any portion of your team that's not in the NBA Finals and said, that's the way basketball should be played. I frankly have watched all of the big matchups this year in the NBA. Maybe outside of Golden State and Phoenix in December, did I say, okay, that's basketball. Outside of that, I never really saw it. Never really saw it. And that's probably why when people talk about the Warriors, they get frustrated because they know that if the rest of the league just came together and stopped talking about threes and isolation basketball and all this other garbage that the league wants you to think that they're trying to promote actually matters, when in reality, if ball just talked, you would have the greatest sport on the planet. This sport, when it is played to the best ability, and when it's played at a simplified level, to the degree in which you're watching in this NBA Finals, this is the greatest sport ever. There's no debate about it. When it's fundamentally sound and it's intense and there's depth and there's insightful plays and there's things that occur on the defensive side where dudes are up in the air and they're doing things you could never envision doing as yourself because there's just no way you could, like, only the 1% of the 1% could ever envision athletically being involved in. And the refs are letting them play and they're all trying to, play mind games, but the refs are letting them figure it out. I mean, it's none of the crap that we constantly see from October through May. How can we have to wait damn near 7 to 8 months to get the best product on the basketball court? This used to go all playoffs long. It used to be on the big matchups on TNT and ESPN and Marv Albert and all those guys. It used to be where we would sit there and we would watch these games and the just level of intensity and the level of play and the get-upness and everything was just there, and it just has not been there. But come the NBA Finals, boy, I tell you what. If you don't like this NBA Finals, I can't help you. I really can't. This has been outstanding. This level of basketball is outstanding. Don't get me wrong. There's been times where it's kicked back and you're like, okay, they're kind of back to what they did during the season. But Game 5 was fantastic. Game 3 was fantastic. Game 1 was, oh my God. Game 1 was some of the best basketball I've seen all year. Game 2 was also brilliant. So, with that being said, there's 3 outcomes that are going to occur. And they're all laid out in front of you. They're going to be big, significant indicators for legacies as we move forward. I think after this year, there's legitimately, I brought it up, after this year, in the Eastern Conference, you can probably name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contenders. Miami, Boston, Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. Off the top of your head, who could all contend for an NBA championship next year? They can. All 5 of them. All 5. And then in the West, Phoenix, Memphis. If Denver's healthy, I know the Jazz, Quinn Snyder's walking away from the game, walking away from the organization. But Phoenix, Memphis, if the Nuggets are healthy, and Golden State. All 4 of those teams can be championship worthy. Now, obviously, the whole Lakers shebang, all that, we all know potentially if they get the right pieces, they can always be in the conversation and if they work. The Clippers, if they're healthy, that's been the same narrative for 3-4 years. But for the most part, there's a 3 to 4 team race in the West, and there's a 5-team race out East. Golden State does this again next year. Now you're talking about greatest trios of all time. Now you're talking about it. But it's not over. There's 3 scenarios. Warriors in 6, Warriors in 7, and Boston in 7. If Boston wins in 7, I tell you what. It's going to be a great finale. It's going to be a great one from me in regards to ripping the head off of this conversation of the Warriors being so great. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash them. All 3 of the guys are Hall of Famers. I love Klay Thompson. Steph Curry has definitely grown on me. He is one of the greatest shooters. He is the greatest shooter of all time, and he's one of the greatest point guards of all time. And Draymond Green, to me, is just absolutely fabulous. But this conversation that they would contend in every single era would have to disappear if they can't win and close out this series after being up 3-2. It has to end. It has to. If you only win 3 championships, and 2 of them are with one of the greatest scorers, if not the greatest scorer of all time in Kevin Durant, and you win one of your finals against a only LeBron without Kyrie Irving and without Kevin Love NBA Finals, and you were down 2-1 at one point, but you found a way to come back situation, it's kind of hard for me to sit there and not say, well, you kind of got bailed out. I'm just saying. And you choked down 3-1, and you couldn't beat Toronto. Granted, injuries, I totally understand why they couldn't beat Toronto, the injuries, and Kawhi was really freaking good that year. But all the excuses can come into play. And you can't close out Boston. I'm going to give you crap, and I'm going to rip you for it. I'm gonna tear your legacy a little bit. But something tells me Respect will be earned. If they win it in 6 and they get it done, you'll hear it from me, and I'll tell you right now, they're one of the greatest trios of all time. They're not the greatest, but dang it, they're freaking close. Because if they win it this year, and if they win it over the next 2, 3 years, or four, however long they're together, one more time, I will give them all the respect. I'll still give them all the respect, no matter what the circumstances. 6 or 7 doesn't matter. I will give it to them because they've been that impressive for that long, and it's about damn time that somebody gave them their flowers, and I'll give them their flowers if they get it done, of course. All right, it's time to get out of here. Last episode, curtains, will be next episode. It'll be a long one. It's my last show. I have not done a final show of a project since I did the Daily Craze back. Funny enough, I started that 8 years ago, and then I ended it in January of 2015, and I've been doing this show since December of 2014. So to close out a project that I've been doing for 8 years is pretty remarkable. And I will be glad to bring it to you for the first day of summer, the longest day of the year. I'll be recording it on Father's Day after the finals. I will be coming back from a Mariners game, fun fact, so I'll be watching that finals delayed. But then I'll record my show afterward, and that'll be it. It'll probably be a 2 hour show, to be honest with you. I have a lot to say. Nothing negative, nothing bad about the lead, nothing bad about. Just I've got a lot to say. It's it. For me, I've just been. I'll say it on the last show. I'll give you that. I'll give you a big old cliffhanger. I've got a lot of things about the media that bother me, and I'm not going to air out dirty laundry because that's not fair to anybody who's involved in the media. But I'm going to tell you a lot of my all-encompassing. It's something I told Eric. Not in. I won't go into private detail, obviously, because I'll never do that. I'd never air dirty laundry. But I'll give you all of the reasons for why I'm stopping. I kind of talked about it a month ago, but I'll really give it to you after recapping the finals and talking about legacies and all that beautiful stuff. But I'll really break it down for you for all of the angles as to why I am canceling my show and why I'm ending. Well, I wouldn't say canceling. I'm ending. I'm ending at a right time for a lot of reasons, and it is honestly like 40% of the reasons aren't even around for the basketball reasons. It's just life. Like, it's just, oh my God. And I'm sure any of you know who have kids or got really intense jobs or all these other things would understand. And for all the things I've been through these last 8 years, I mean, it hasn't been too difficult, but it's just a writing of passage thing. And I'll break it all down for you on the next show at the end. I think the first 45 minutes, like I always do, I'll talk about the basketball portion, but then I think for the next hour, I'll go into a lot of my stuff. And I'll break down the history of the show. I'll talk about how I got started, my motivation, and the people I've had, and all the people I've had on. Big thank yous. Big big ups to the lead, obviously, because they have provided me with a platform they did not have to do. I feel like to some degree I'm holding the lead back. I feel like I got the lead to where it is. I feel like it's now the lead's time to do all that it can be and more, because the lead is such a great place with the people who are running it. And I feel like I should give flowers for that as well on my next show, because I will be jumping into a new thing. It's like I'm leaving the media. I'm going to be doing the Spurs lead for a little bit, but I don't intend on doing that forever. I think when somebody finally jumps in who's going to be full time, that'll be when I step away. Because for me, the Spurs lead is basically just me running a platform of the lead of a team that I grew up watching. I feel like I'll just be a kid being on there. Obviously professional, but I'll be a kid, being able to follow and talk about my team the way I want to talk about them with you. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really want to be involved in this stuff anymore. It's just, I'll talk about it on the next show. You can hear all that later. We're out of here. Have a good one. Again, Game 6 Thursday, Game 7 Juneteenth / Father's Day Sunday. I would anticipate some absolutely elite basketball like we've already seen. One team's on the brink of elimination for Game 6. If the Celtics come back and win, which I honestly think is going to happen, expect just a fantastic Game 7. I don't think this will be viewed as an all-time NBA Finals, but from an all-time perspective on how it's played out, if Game 7 is an absolute classic, we might look at it that way. And boy howdy, it would be a great one if it did. Thanks again for listening, everybody. We'll do episode 40 on June 21st. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I'll see you then.